gamers. Today we got a little guide for you guys. Today I'm going to be showing you the Abbasid dynasty. You know, not much has changed with Abbasid, but at the same time a lot has changed with Abbasid. So I wanted to make a guide. We obviously have one of the most recent changes that Abbasid got buffed was the fact that you can make fresh foodstuffs at a mill. You used to need to make it at your town center, so you were losing a villager, and that's maybe seems like a small thing, but it's a pretty big thing, and I'll explain as we go. So I'm going to show you two games. One versus Order of the Dragon, which is, you know, whatever. It's a whatever matchup. And then one versus English that I know a lot of Abbasid players struggle because it is probably the worst matchup for that Abbasid has. So we're going to start with 7 on food. Now, you can start on sheep if you want to. But I would advise you to start with start on berries if the civ is aggressive. Now, this is the interesting part. If you go for super fast second town center, if you chop this tree, and this tree, if you don't make a mill, you will actually be able to get TC without making a lumber mill. But if you want to go for mill, which you probably want to do because of fresh foodstuffs, I would suggest you do it against aggressive civs so that you get these berries and this food out of the way before the enemy arrives. Because then after, you're kind of screwed, right? So we're going to start with 7 into 4 on gold. We're going to be doing the scouting, obviously, everything as usual. And once we age up, obviously there are 4 wings we can pick. Now, I do have an Abbasid trade guide, so I'm pretty sure nothing has changed since. So if you want an Abbasid trade guide, you can go ahead and take a look at that because it's very unique and very specific. The other 3 wings, I will quickly go through them and when you should go for which one. So if you're looking for economic wing, the only time you should be going against or economic wing is against civilizations that are also booming. So for example, if you're playing against Abbasid in a mirror, or if you're playing against China, or if you're playing against any civilization that you meet in your league that often goes for multiple town centers, you can go for Eco Wing. But in general, Eco Wing is only worth it if you're going for 3 town centers or more. If you're only going to add 1 extra TC, Economic Wing is not worth it in my opinion. So that's the general rule of thumb. If you're going to go 3 TC or more, go Eco Wing. If you're going to get only 1 extra TC, do one of the other 2. Now, when do you go military wing? When do you go culture wing? Most of the time you will be going for military wing because it's simply the best wing for multiple reasons, which I'll get to in a second. When do you go culture wing? Culture wing, I like to go against civilizations where I want to go for 2 town centers, but I also want to age up extremely quickly right after that. So let's say that the civ I'm playing against will not be making any units, they will not be rushing, and I cannot do damage for whatever reason, then going Culture Wing is very good. And I think going Culture Wing against English, for example, is good because you don't get a lot of value from Military Wing. You get two archers and 2 spearmen, which is whatever, and then Eco Wing against English is basically suicide. So Culture Wing, like I said, can have its uses, and if you feel like you're not going to do a lot of damage with military wing, you do culture wing. So yeah, now the go-to wing is the military one. 2 reasons for it. Number 1, you will be able to defend against any knights or any early pressure spearmen, whatever the opponent is doing. You'll be able to defend it. If you're getting tower rush, you're going to be able to make a ram with the 4 units, and more importantly, you know, Abbasid used to be very defensive, but now, these days, Abbasid is played a lot more aggressive. So what you want to do with the military wing most of the time is just rally them across the map immediately and do harassment on your opponent, because if the opponent is trying to rush castle, or they're also trying to maybe make a second town center, let's say they're playing French or something, you can actually force them to make units, and you didn't use any resources for these units. So you're going to get 2 spearmen, 2 archers. You did not make barracks or archer range or use resources to create them, but the opponent will have to make their own units to defend, which means that your second town center should always be faster than your opponent, and that's why military wing is the go-to. So we're going to age up with the military wing against Order of the Dragon. And the moment you have 75 gold for fresh foodstuffs, you will pull your villagers off of gold. Now, we used to do like wheelbarrow, and then you also would get fresh foodstuffs. But these days, I feel like getting a second town center is a lot more valuable, faster, and the reason for that is you're able to put your pressure with military wing, and by the time the opponent is ready to counterattack, your second TC is already done. That's number one. And number two, we don't really put TCs with Abbasid too far away from your base anymore. We used to, like, you know, go over here and put a TC. Now, you know, I'll put it here in this game because it's close and I could. But if the opponent was being aggressive or something, I'd probably just put TC here. You don't need to go out of your way to put it out on the map somewhere, because you will be making units, which you'll see in a little bit. So we get the sheep back. Now you want to put, I would say, 5-6 on stone, 5-6 on wood, and kind of just adjust if you need to regarding how many villagers you need where. You can see right now, if you chop all 3 trees, which you should, you're gonna have 350 wood, and then you're gonna need to make a lumber camp and chop a little bit more in order to make a town center. So try to adjust for that, and then you could put 4 villagers. You can leave 4 villagers on food so that you can constantly produce, and remember to get fresh foodstuffs immediately. Now, why is Abbasid suddenly good when in the previous patch was one of the bottom sits? The reason for that is, at the top level, 1 villager is a massive difference. So being able to have 1 villager, just plus 1 villager out of nowhere, is a lot of economy over time, and it allows for a lot of things to happen faster. And by everything, you know, teching faster, aging up faster, or making second TC faster, you will also have just exponential growth from that on onwards. So number one thing is, you used to lose a villager in town center when making fresh foodstuffs. Now you don't. Number 2 thing, because you have this very, very early, so you want to research it right now, and you will have it by, like, let's say, I skipped a few seconds, but you should have it by 4:30, 4:35. Not only you get to research this, you get a bonus villager, but now you will also be spending less food on your villagers, which was not the case for the previous patch Abbasid, because what we were doing is you would get wheelbarrow, your second TC would be delayed, and then once you start building the second town center, then you get fresh foodstuffs because you get to cut the villager. So what that means is, not only you get free villager here, but you also get a lot of food saved until your second TC comes into play, which is, again, it's, you know, you save, let's say 100, 120 food. Might not seem like a big deal, but it does add up. And of course your TC is a lot faster because we don't go wheelbarrow and at the start anymore. We're going to go wheelbarrow a bit later. So why is military wing good? Well, my opponent went for early deer and super early boar, which I did not scout this. If I did, he'd be in a lot of trouble. And he's aging up here in like super, super open space. But let's say even if he wasn't aging up here, I would be able to deny OOTD's gold. If you look, his landmark is just now finishing. So I would deny his gold or stone. So if his, you know, build was to go like fast castle or something, that would not be possible. Then he has to make an archer range. Then he has to make an archer, which is very expensive. And by the time he does all that, I just run back and I have my second TC going, and then you can choose whatever you want to do. And I even get a villager kill here because he made mine work in a really, really exposed spot. So now I'm scouting, and already this is a very, very, very good position for me. Look at that. I'm getting a second TC in a really good spot. Wood, deer, and berries. And he hasn't even started his game yet, in a way. Like, he has a shit ton of food because he has the boar. And again, I did not see the boar. But other than that, he's kind of locked down in this position. You can see him getting the chopping the wood, trying to make an archer. So everything is super delayed. Now, what do you do behind this? You want to get to Golden Age, preferably as fast as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that you should just spam houses or something to do it, but you should try to get to Golden Age as fast as possible because you get 15% gathering rate for all resources, which is obviously really good. So what do you do from here? Whenever you play Abbasid game these days, you have two options. Number one option will be to just simply age up, and that would be you putting 4 or 5 villagers on gold, like something like this, and then rally 1 TC onto gold, rally 1 TC onto food, maybe get a wheelbarrow, and then just wait for the age up. So very simple, and then you get your Golden Age 1 as well, just for that gathering rate. Now, if you want to make units, I'm going to show you that in the second game. But if you were to make units, what you would do is you would leave, let's say, 6-7 workers on food to have constant villager production. And then you would just rally onto wood until you have about probably 15, 16, 17 workers. So you can produce a lot of production building, whether it's stables or barracks or archer ranges and whatever else. If you're playing against an all-in as Abbasid, you want to produce like 1 or 2 barracks to, let's say you're playing against a Knight Civ. You want to produce 1 or 2 barracks for spearmen, but your heavy focus on the army should be the archers. You want to have like 4 or 5 archer ranges and just pump out archers non-stop and slowly age up to castle. The reason for this is archers are pretty bad against knights, and Abbasid archers are not that great in feudal. But if you reach a critical mass of about 40 to 50 archers, you will be able to one-shot horsemen or knights. So if your opponent does attack you and dives or something, you can just run back, shoot, and you're one-tapping the knights every time. Not only that, this has been a playstyle that's been recently more and more popular. Once you do age up to castle, your army becomes incredibly strong because all you need to do then is upgrade veteran archers and get composite bows, and suddenly your 50, 60 archers that you have are now in castle with composite bows with +2 attack, and even if men-at-arms or ghulams or whatever else is coming from the opponent, the archers will be able to deal with it because they have really high DPS. So in this game, I decided to make 1 archer range, and because he's OTD, or same thing would be for HRE, I made an archer range and wanted to make a couple of archers and camel archers just to put a little bit of pressure. That's something you can also do as I'm aging up. So as you can see, I'm still aging up. I'm just making a couple of units, and I got Golden Age as well to put pressure on him so that he is also forced to make units. So in this current situation, I'm ahead economically. I'm ahead on units as well. And the only thing he's ahead is age up, which soon I will be able to catch up. And again, a lot of it comes down from having military wing, being able to put pressure on your opponent earlier, second TC, and so on. So here he's aging up with the Regnets, and again, a lot of idle time for him. He has to rush, age up with a lot of villagers. Behind this, I'm going to be aging up in a second. And if you go military wing first, so which wing do you go second? If you go military wing first, your only real options are culture wing and eco wing. If you're pinned in your base and you cannot get out on the map, you can go for economic wing because you will need to transition to farm soon. If you are in this situation that I am, like you're fine, you got plenty of food, you still got deer, you got berries, and then you got deer, berries that I will be able to defend, then I would suggest you go economic wing because you're going to get more value with it for the rest of the game, and farm transition will come later on, and I still have all the sheep as well. So that's kind of how you should look at it. If you open with culture wing in feudal age, then your second wing should be 90% of the time, 95% of the time should be military wing because you get 2 camel riders, and also you want access to composite bows and boot camp, which is very strong. So right now, like I said, I'm denying his gold again. I'm putting some pressure. The game not going too well for him. He has no gold. If you look at his worker splits, 518, a lot of idling, a bunch of nothing. And now I'm just trying to deny relics from him. So I put some units on this relic, some units on the bottom one, but he defends it. and I am aging up as we speak. I'm getting my blacksmith, and now that I'm aging up, I'm going to be putting, as you saw earlier, I was mostly on food and gold. Now I'm going to be putting a lot of workers onto the wood so that I can get my production buildings up. You're going to need a lot of them. You want to have like 3-4 barracks and 3-4 arch ranges at the minimum, because your economy at this point should be really, really good. So you want to make sure you can produce enough units. I'm going to speed up here, but yeah, I'm just adding +1 range armor. I'm going to get steel there as well. Now, if you're facing, for some reason, spearmen, you should make archers. If you're rushing castle like this, you usually should be making crossbow gulam or crossbow spearman, crossbow spearman gulam.
16, let's go.
Because rushing for composite bows is only worth if you already have a pre-mass of archers.
Less than 3.
If you don't have a big mass of archers already, you're not going to get a lot of value by starting veteran upgrade and then composite bows, because you're wasting so many resources upgrading something that you don't even have units for. So you would much rather have plenty of workers and gold and food to be able to go crossbow gulam immediately, especially if your opponent is also castle, right? There's a higher chance that he will be producing, gold units rather than units that get countered by archers. So here I deny 1 relic. Look at the worker count. It's already pretty big difference. Now, when you age up to castle, make sure you get preservation of knowledge. It's very, very important. Now, one thing that sometimes people ask me, is it worth to wait for preservation of knowledge upgrade before getting your upgrades? No, it's not. So, as I'm aging up, I think I got eco upgrades here. I got +1 ranged armor. I got spearman upgrade. Like, it is not worth for you to be like, okay, I'm not going to spend any resources and I'll just wait. Especially in the blacksmith, you want to make sure you're researching stuff because it takes time to do it. And from here on out, pretty much against any civ, you're just kind of going to explode with units right now. And we've seen this again come very popular recently with Abbasid. You kind of just, in a way, do your own burger and you just spam units and you kind of just go for it. You can see I have 3 archer ranges and 4 barracks right now. I'm adding a mosque to get some relics too. Getting all the upgrades. I got the boot camp. And now the unit spam begins. Getting all the upgrades as well. More upgrades, more production. And now, against most civs, if you just make a mangonel, you can kind of just go for it already. Because the way you should look at it, your economy is set up. I still have a lot of food to work with. Your production is set up. You have 2 TCs. So if opponent rush castle, they will not be able to match your unit production in this case. So right now I saw he's taking a relic, so I try to deny that. And now, even though this might look like not a great fight, I'm forcing him to just constantly fight me, and my economy is a lot better than his is. So in time, I'll be able to just simply, have way more units. I'm also gonna yoink this relic in a bit. And if you look at the top side, you'll see the army count just keeps increasing for me, and it's slowly gonna go down for him. Even though I'm losing units, it doesn't matter because I have so much production. Look at that. They're just printing. And now I'm switching to archers. Why? Because I'm noticing he is not making any armored units. So what he's doing is just archer crossbow, which is a thing that some OTD players do. So you can use your archers to target fire crossbows and use gulams to kill the archers at the same time. I chill back for a second. I make a mangonel. Boom. And the game is pretty much over. Now, when do you transition to farms? The easiest way to transition to farms with Abbasid, especially if you're spamming archers, is just stop making archers. I have 32 workers on wood, because there's 3 workers building a house. So I have 32 workers on wood with second upgrade for wood. So if I just start producing archers for literally a minute, I'm going to have, look at my income, 1.2k. I'll have so many farms being ready to go. And you don't stop your unit production. I would just produce Gulam crossbow, and all the wood I have, I would use to get farms up. It's that simple, really. Another good thing about Abbasid archers is because they're so strong, a lot of your army can be Abbasid archers, which means that you will actually not be using a lot of food. So your food will last longer because you're producing archers, which are very light on food. They're only 30 food. And your villagers are also 32 food and not 50. So Abbasid is one of those civs right now that it's kind of like you have like a cheat code for food. You know, your food does not expire as fast as your opponents, even though you're on 2 TC and you're spamming units. So, yeah. Now I got a mangonel, and from then on out, I mean, you just slow push, and he taps out. Now I'm going to show you another game that I played against English. I do want to say that English is probably the hardest matchup in the game for Abbasid, like I mentioned previously. In this game, my opponent went for Abbey of Memes, which I think is the easier version dealing with this. But if the opponent goes for Council Hall, I would probably advise you to open Archer Range plus Stables first, so you can defend the first few units, and then try to add your second Town Center. Otherwise, you might get caught off guard and you might just straight up lose the game, especially if the opponent, you know, open Men-at-Arms or something. If the opponent open Men-at-Arms in this matchup, you can go for Military Wing to push back the Men-at-Arm and then get super fast TC. That's possible. But if the opponent, you know, is just going straight Council Hall, I would say Culture Wing is probably the best. And the reason for that is, again, Military Wing doesn't help you if the opponent is just going straight for longbows. Eco Wing definitely does not help you. Trade Wing definitely does not help you. Culture Wing, even though it's not the best in Feudal, at least will give you some value. So we're gonna age up here too. I put my workers on gold a bit earlier, which is why I have extra gold, because I wasn't sure if he is going for Men-at-Armor or not. So I wanted to make sure I have enough gold to age up. So I saw Abbey of Memes. Boom. Now, if there were longbows coming, you can try to rush out second TC. It is rough. But if this was a Council Hall and longbows were coming, I think I actually just scouted it now. I don't think I saw there was Abbey of Memes. But my plan was, I'm just gonna mine enough stone and I'm just gonna plop the TC like right here. Or in the back or something. If you're playing against Council Hall, a good place to put your TC is not next to gold or you know, food or whatever. It's next to wood, because you're gonna need a lot of wood to produce archers and to produce production buildings and so on. And let's say I have enough for TC now and I go and I put it here. What the English player will do, put 3 longbows here, 3 longbows here, and you can't chop any wood and the game is pretty much over. So, yeah. Now, because it's Abbey, I went for TC here, and he also went for second Town Center, which I saw as well. So I knew this was 2 TC versus 2 TC. Now we see the Archer Range coming up, so he will be making longbows. And immediately, shortly after, I will be making my own production buildings. Now, when opponent is being aggressive, my advice to you is to match it. So don't just be like, okay, I'm just gonna go castle now with no units. You will take some damage. Like, he will come around here, pick off a villager. He'll come here. You won't garrison time. He's gonna pick off a villager. It's not worth it. You have to match their army, and this is something that Abbasid players have been doing a lot more recently, just fighting in Feudal. So Stable and Archer Range coming up. I got the Preservation of Knowledge, so now my upgrades are cheaper. I'm gonna get Wheelbarrow first. I got my Golden Age Tier 1, and I'm making Horsemen and Archers as well. So he's just gonna be aggressive off of this with Mass Longbow. I think he went double. Yeah, he went double Archer Range. And he's just gonna be making longbows. Now, the Horseman is obviously very, very good against longbows, so I managed to pick off 1 for free. Behind this, I'm making constantly units. I'm gonna get Blacksmith because I want to get +1 ranged armor and attack. And Now, when I play this game, someone asked me what if he went Spearman. I mean, if he went Spearman, instead of these 7 longbows, you know, 3 would be Spearman, let's say. And I have 5 archers, so it would be the same thing, in a way, right? Going Spearman longbow is better, but just because he went for pure longbow doesn't mean, you know, that's why you defend it, because I basically have the answer for both, right? I was expecting him to go Spearman, but he didn't. And now, even before +1 range armor hits, you can see that the fight is very easy to do and try to overwhelm your opponent. And I think another thing that people don't expect from Abbasid is to actually make units into fight. Because a lot of Abbasid players are trying to be as greedy as possible, so don't be afraid to mass units, basically. And again, he gets denied here again. I almost pick off a king, but not quite. And I push him all the way back. And we're both with 2 town centers right now, right? So the economy is equal, but I have more upgrades. His is a lot more committed. A lot more greedy in a way of, like, all in, I guess. He's like too greedy to try and end the game and do massive damage instead of just slowly transitioning out of it. So he loses the king, I'm still producing units, and this is the good thing about Abbasid economy. Because you have the golden age and because you're producing your villagers cheaper, look at this, I'm producing units, I'm producing villagers right here, I'm producing stables, horsemen, I'm producing archers, I'm gonna add more or have more archer ranges here, and my economy is slowly going up, which means even though I am fully producing units and I'm fully fighting and I'm getting all the upgrades, I'm also close to the age up. And this is one good thing about Abbasid, because your golden age is very, very good at dark age. You can fight, you can spam units, and you can still age up at the same time. So if you look right now, I have 8 horsemen, 10 archers, and I'm aging up with military wing, and I have almost all the upgrades I can get. I'm doing massive walls across the map, so I secure all the food sources, and meanwhile he's just trying to defend. And you can see how much the economy is worse. The villager kill difference is not that massive, but if you look at the economy difference between English and Abbasid, it is massive. And that's kind of your advantage with Abbasid. Yes, English has better units because they can go longbow, men-at-arms eventually, but that needs to be a lot later. So now I've aged up. I'm going to get veteran horsemen and archers because I already have a lot of the units, so it makes sense to upgrade them. I'm getting +2 ranged attack. He's making spearmen now, but they go down very, very quickly. The king goes down, and I know that he's not on this gold, so I decide to push the back gold. And at this point, because I have castle units and he does not, I can just dive under TC. Doesn't really matter at all. So he decides to tap out. So yeah, does this style work against other aggressive cities like Delhi? Yeah, except against Delhi, I would probably say to go military wing. Like, if you feel that you cannot avoid fighting in feudal against the Civ, like against JD or Delhi or English, well, not English, I just explained why, but military wing is always good because of boot camp as well. While you don't have like knights or longbows, remember that your economy is better than theirs, and you also have 2 TCs. So the longer the game goes in feudal, yes, they are getting stronger and stronger units, but you're getting more and more units, and your economy is growing faster than theirs is. That is it for the Abbasid guide. I was gonna make a China guide with 1 TC Castle Rush, but I'm not a big fan of it. To be honest, I've been playing it a little bit here and there, but not a big fan how it plays out. It can be used in some matchups potentially, but overall I wouldn't suggest it against every Civ, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be making a new China guide. Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. Boop. Appreciate you. Check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now. Twitch gamers. Let's keep going.